Okay, welcome to Formative and Summative Evaluation. I hope to cover both of those, and I will cover them at least initially in comparison to mixology. And so, again, with mixology, when you're mixing a drink, what you'll often do is you'll put a little more orange juice, a little more drink, a little more alcohol, a little more sweetener, a little more fruit, and then taste it and then say, oh, I need a little more of this, a little bit of that. And as you're mixing the drinks, you're improving the drink so that the final product that you deliver to your customer or your guests is the best possible drink that you could possibly make. Well, that's basically what formative evaluation is all about. Formative evaluation is making adjustments to the interactive module you're building so that what you deliver is the best possible module that you could possibly deliver. So we're going to talk about alpha and beta testing. We're including alpha and beta. Alpha and beta testing are constructs from the software development industry. And so alpha testing, we're going to expand a little bit about what alpha testing is. But both alpha and beta testing are tests that are conducted before the release of the software program. In this case, the educational module that you're creating. So that's why it's called formative. Summative happens at the end when you deliver the content, and we're going to do beta testing in a way that's very much like summative evaluation. Summative evaluation you usually do after you release the product. We're going to do it as part of beta testing, and we're going to call alpha and beta testing to basically formative evaluation because both of them are going to be done in such a way to improve your product before you give it to the target population. Robert Stake, who's an expert in evaluation, he says that when the cook tastes the soup, that's formative evaluation. When the guests taste the soup, that's summative evaluation. As the cook, you're tasting it to try to decide, does it need a little more salt? Does it need a little more pepper? Does it need a little bit more tomato? Does it need a little spice to jazz it up? But once you give it to the guests are deciding, is this a good soup or is this not a good soup? So that's formative versus summative. We are going to do that summative test. We're going to call it beta test. We want to have the target population actually make a judgment about whether or not it's a good learning module or not. But we're not going to do that full scale. We're going to do that in a way that you can still make improvements to your module. So we're still calling that formative evaluation. Formative evaluation is interested in making recommendations to improve the process or lesson. So by that definition, the on the boards that you're doing in this class are a part of your formative evaluation. The on the boards are formative evaluation. You're basically creating a prototype. In the case of the first one, which you've already done, you made a video that kind of describes your intent of what you're doing, maybe had a few screen designs. So it's a real initial thinking about what it is that you're going to be doing. And you're using that to make improvements to the system that you're creating. And so every on-the-board session that we're doing in this class is a part of your formative evaluation. And we can call all five of the on the boards that you're doing alpha testing. Okay? None of them are you going to actually test to see if they've learned. In your beta test, you're going to test to see if they've learned. All right, formative evaluation report. You're going to focus on the usability issues and the learning effectiveness. So you're going to focus on the usability issues both in alpha and beta testing. You're really kind of focusing on the overall design and the functionality of it and how to make improvements to it. In the beta testing, you're going to make a judgment about whether or not it's effective in actually teaching the content that you're intending to teach. It's going to be about 1,000 words. You're going to have basically 5 people for your alpha testing, and possibly you could consider it 10 people because if you also do, as I recommend later, that you include, every time you do an on-the-board session with one of your classmates, give whatever you're giving to your classmate, give that to your client so that your client is also giving you feedback on it. So really your alpha test is going to have up to 10 people involved, and then your beta test will have 3 to 5 people. Assessment criteria, including sample rubrics and questions. So in the beta test, you want to actually measure whether they're learning. You have to have some kind of a test, whether it's a product with a rubric associated with it or a multiple choice test, whatever it is that's going to measure it, that's what you got to include. And then you got to describe the procedures that were followed and then the results and what recommendations you have for revisions. And in most cases, it's not going to be recommendations for revisions. It's going to be the revisions that you implemented as a result of those tests, because these are all going to be in the past tense by the time you generate your final report. Alpha testing. Again, this is where we're sort of smudging the idea of alpha testing because the definition begins with the major test, and it isn't. That first on the boards that you did, it isn't for the context of this class. Alpha testing is a major test of the major test of the program, as it's a full version of it. We're going to do sort of a rapid prototyping model in this class because we're doing on the boards. So you probably did a video for your first on the board. You probably will do it on a video for the second on the board. But by the third or fourth, you should actually have a working prototype of your module. And that will be what the classmate will go through. And I'm recommending also your client should go through. So it's not the major test. It's the test that you're going to run to improve usability and also the content. So the nice thing about having your classmates go through it is they can really focus on the usability, to some extent the content. The nice thing about having the client go through it is they really can focus on the content, whether the content's accurate and whether the content is understandable. I do recommend, there's a link in the ELC to Dr. Reeves' instructional product evaluation tools. He has a ton of them out there. I would recommend that you access it and you not only access it, but make use of everything that you can make use of. It's a great set of tools. Use it. The reviewers will be your classmates and your client for the alpha testing. So hopefully you're going to get your client involved in that alpha testing. But it's basically all the on-the-board sessions that we're doing in class. The evaluation plan format will be a profile of the reviewers, all the students in the class, and your client. So you have I had 3 women and 2 men, and their average age was 25 or whatever it is, and their expertise particularly related to the content. Any assessment criteria, if you include any rubrics or questionnaires, most of the time on the boards, you're just getting open-ended feedback, and you're having a conversation about what it is that they got out of it. And then you also have to write up the procedures that you plan on following, and that's basically the on-the-board procedures. If you do something different with your client, you should also document that. That's in the plan. You then have to write the final report. The difference between the plan and the final report is in the report, you're going to have the results and you're going to have the revisions that you made. Okay? And the other change between the plan and the report is likely that you'll change the verb tense. In the plan, you're going to say, this is what I'm going to do. In the report, you're going to say, this is what I did. So that's the difference between the plan and the report. For alpha testing. So let's turn to beta testing. The beta testing is a full test of the final product. This could be done at the end of the semester. It should be done by actual users. If you can get access to your actual learning population, that would be the ideal. If you can't, you can piece together 3 to 5 people of your classmates to do your beta testing. Now, the big difference between beta testing and alpha testing is in red here. It's not usability, it's the learning effects. That's the difference. You're still going to test for usability. You're going to still be looking for where they're getting confused and not able to navigate. And so you're still going to focus on usability, but now you're also going to measure whether or not they actually learned from the content. And so, and if they haven't, your revisions might be to the content in addition to the usability. Okay. Again, you can go to Dr. Reeves' site for any kind of tools that he has available, but I will say that he will not have a post-test for your content. Your content's unique to you. And so if you're looking for a post test on that site, you will not find it. You really got to make your own post test, and that could be in the form of a multiple choice test. You can conduct an interview to make a judgment about whether or not they learned it. You could, if it's a product that they're building, you can have a rubric to evaluate their product. Whatever it is, your way of measuring their learning, but you have to measure their learning. Ideally with actual learners, but if not, your classmates. So in the beta testing, you'll select your learners as best you can, explain the procedure to them, find out how much they know before they start. Because again, if you just measure at the end what they've learned, if they already knew it, then you're not measuring what they learned because they already knew it. And also, if the content is beyond their ability, you can find that out by pre-testing them, by getting to know how much they know about the subject. It may be that they don't do very well, but that may not be a function of that it's a bad module. It may be a function of the fact that they were not ready to learn that content. They didn't have the prerequisite knowledge. Observe them going through the program, so again, you can make judgments about usability. Interview them, survey them afterwards, and to also test for usability, also to get their feedback on content, but also assess their learning, and then revise the program accordingly. And again, you have a plan and you have a report. The plan will have the profile of the reviewers, the assessment criteria, including any of the instruments that you're going to be using to measure whether or not they learned, and then the procedures that will be followed. And so that's sort of the plan. The report will be the same thing, past tense now, but it will also include the results and recommendations for revision. So these two things, alpha testing and beta testing, we're calling together formative evaluation. The alpha testing is only focused on ways to improve the presentation of the content and the usability of the module that you're creating. The beta testing continues that work, but also adds, did they learn from the content? The beta testing you're going to do at the very end when you have a complete module, and you're really going to make a judgment as to whether or not people actually can learn the content from your module. So that's it. So that's the alpha and beta testing. If we collapse it back into mixology, you're going to be testing as you go to kind of make sure that it's a good drink, but in the end, you're going to give it to the target population and let them judge whether or not it's a good drink or not. All right? That's your evaluations for this class. So good luck with it, and I look forward to reading your reviews.